watching CK Media's CK News with me, Charles Kane. And today, we're talking about Nissan. And more importantly, their fired chief executive, Carlos Gaussian. You might have heard about him. Let's get into it. Carlos Gaussian, this guy, was once chairman of Nissan and Renault, a French company that makes cars. But he was arrested on the 19th of November in Tokyo. Unfortunately for Mr. Gaussian, in Japan, their criminal justice system has a 99% conviction rate, which basically guarantees him to be convicted and arrested. So not good for him. The Japanese criminal justice system works by taking the evidence, but not fully convicting the person until they have gotten a confession out of the person. Now, there's a couple of things that Carlos Gaussian has been accused of. Quite a number of things, actually. And I'll go through them now. They're in a list. Charges of misconduct. On the 23rd of November 2018, 50,000 euros from Renault had been given to Chateau de Versailles for a big party for Gaussian's wife, number one. Number two, Gaussian apparently made payments through Nissan, to a subsidiary Saudi businessman who helped him cover his trading losses in the financial crisis of 2008. Number three, Gaussian underreported his pay from 2010 to 2017 by $84 million. He claimed that he only received $915,000 a year, when apparently it was much more. Number four, Gaussian was also accused of using millions of dollars to buy property for himself in Paris, Beirut, and Rio de Janeiro. Millions of dollars taken from Nissan. And number five, 7.8 million euros was used in improper payments to a joint venture set up by Nissan and Mitsubishi. By Carlos Gaussian, of course. So those are some pretty heavy white-collar crimes. Right now, Mr. Gaussian is currently awaiting trial in a Japanese detention house, which is basically like it's a cell, but he's not yet convicted. He's not yet in prison. Why is he not in prison? Well, I'll tell you why. What I said earlier. He hasn't confessed. And if you remember, 99.7% conviction rate in Japan, all of those guys had confessed to their crimes. That's pretty serious. And Carlos Gaussian, he's pretty certain that he didn't do those things. Those 5 things that I listed off for you back there. In an interview with Les Echos, a French publication, Carlos Gaussian said that he is subject to a plot of treason and conspiracy by Nissan executives to hinder the integration of Nissan, Renault, and Mitsubishi Motors. Now that alliance that they're planning on creating would rely on each of those companies having done very well themselves. Well, unfortunately, Nissan hasn't been doing so great recently. Well, that's linked to the release of more of the company's control to his executive, Carlos Gaussian's partner, executive, Hiroto Saikawa, in 2016. And since then, they haven't been doing so good in sales, especially over in America. And it's not only sales in America. In fact, the sales in Japan, the home company of Nissan, the home country of Nissan, have been exposed to a whole number of quality control scandals that has hit sales pretty drastically. Nissan currently runs at a 3.6% profit margin. Doesn't sound a lot, and it isn't. Compared to the other big boys, they're the lowest profit makers in all of the major car companies. Now, why would Nissan be worried about...
Sorry.
Don't worry. Now, why would Nissan be worried about this merger between Renault and Mitsubishi? Well, currently, Nissan and Renault are already in a sort of partnership, and that was basically helped with Gaussian from back in the day. But, however, Nissan owns only 15% of Renault without any voting rights, and Renault own 43% of Nissan with voting rights. So what does that mean? Well, I mean, in this merger that they're going to do, this further integration of the three companies, I suspect Nissan are a little bit worried that they're going to lose more and more of their company, more and more of their control to Renault and Mitsubishi. Well, you say that. Despite that, Nissan had been assured that once those companies, three companies, had decided to merge, that they would all each retain autonomy, except that they would be now under one holding company, like an umbrella. That they would retain their ability to control their own decisions on, whatever goes on inside that lovely building. Now, if you remember a moment ago, I said that Carlos Ghosn was subject to a plot of treason and conspiracy. Well, at least that's what he said, by his other executives. Now, Mr. Saikawa, there has been tensions between him and Mr. Gaussian, as could see by Mr. Saikawa's comments on Mr. Gaussian himself, calling his tactics bullish and his US operations overstretched to try and take over market share in the area. I mean, those don't sound like nice words to be talking about, your partner. I mean, even though he's been going over, some troubles, he's pretty much, since 2001 when Gaussian came in, he's revived Nissan from basically bankruptcy. So he's almost saved the company. You know what's really tough for Mr. Gaussian? Right now he's in that detention center. And even though he tried to convince the guys that he should be allowed to have a house arrest, that he would pay for the charges, the costs of putting him under house arrest, he would pay for them personally, so it would be at no cost to them. And he would wear the tag. They just said no. They refused his bail options twice. He's not being let out of that detention center. And what's worse, he's apparently being unfairly treated. He's not even allowed his lights off at night time. Imagine sleeping in a cell, with the lights on. And he's only allowed 30 minutes of exercise. I mean, because that he's not allowed bail, it's pretty much hampering his chances of actually defending himself in court when he eventually gets his trial, which is apparently going to be in a couple of months or something like that. I mean, they're pretty slow. They're basically trying to force him to confess so they can convict him, but he's very stubborn on that, which may be an indication of his sincerity. I don't know. Maybe it's just an indication that he knew how to cover his tracks. Because he says that the evidence that he needs, the evidence to prove his innocence, is all within Nissan. However, he's not allowed to get out on, bail or whatever. And plus, he's not even allowed to talk to any of the Nissan employees. He's not allowed any communication with them. So how is he supposed to access his evidence to help himself? I mean, justice is supposed to be fair, isn't it? I mean, that's why you see that lady with the scales. It's supposed to be about, fairness on both parties. And it doesn't seem like it's being particularly fair on Gaussian. He claims that the money he took from Nissan was in fact signed off by 4 managers in a meeting in a board meeting over in Nissan, which are probably, they've got some documents in there somewhere, but as I said, he's not allowed out and he's not allowed access to them. Nissan had also accused Renault of trying to attack the investigation into Mr. Gaussian, basically for trying to help him out, because, you know, he's chairman of Renault as well, and I'm pretty sure that he's given that up too. I mean, he was fired from Nissan. I mean, well, how can you really be the head of a company when you're locked up away in a detention center, you know, eating square meals a day? So what's happening now? Nissan and Renault have both had a joint audit of their books. Basically, some accountant to flick open the accountant stuff that they've all got recorded, and, you know, try and see what's going on there by this company called Mazar, M-A-Z-A-R. I'm not really too sure about what to think. Is he guilty or is he innocent? I'd like to think that he's innocent. He certainly sounds confident. I mean, this is what he said about it. Mr. Gaussian said in an interview, "I am not guilty of the charges against me, and I look forward to defending my reputation in the courtroom." Now that's got some sort of defiant tone to it, which could prove his innocence. He's confident about him being innocent. I like his confidence. And as a journalist, I like conspiracy theories and plots. So, I don't know. Personally, I swing to the side of Gaussian. And I say that he's probably innocent. And they probably just don't want to lose control of Nissan, these executives. But hey, who knows? Alright, this is CK Media's CK News. I'm Charles Kane, and I'm out. Peace.